Are y'all ready to celebrate with me? No, really. It's like, and I want you to celebrate the life that you've created where you are up to now. If you really look back 10, 15, 20 years, and we look at these extraordinary times that we're in, I'm not sure if many of us could have guessed that we would be sitting where we're sitting right now, or the circumstances around it, and really taking note of the miracles and synchronicities and friendships and the people who've shown up in your life, and the abundance, the richness that we've looked in our lives and how it's really translating into these beautiful connections. And I believe the whole evolution of that is to show us, like Sara is going to talk about today, about creating the life of our dreams. And little did I know, how many years ago did we meet? It's been like 7.
7, I think. Yeah.
Sara Landon was landing in Santa Barbara the same week that I was leaving.
Yep.
And our lives crisscross in such a beautiful way. And again, almost 7 years later, I get to sit here, bringing you all into this amazing conversation to celebrate Sara, as she's become, and she always was this, but she's just illuminating it even more with purpose for our benefit, as she embodies really how to create the life of your dreams. And Sara, welcome to the show. As always, it's so wonderful that you're here.
Thank you. I am ready to celebrate. I was reflecting on this the last couple of days as I was getting ready for our conversation, and oh my gosh, I just could not have imagined where being part of the BTO community and our friendship and just everything we've done and created together would lead to in my life. I have to admit, very honestly, the first time I did Beyond the Ordinary show, I don't really get nervous about things very often, but not only was I nervous, but just in full disclosure, it was when the BTO show was actually audio only. And I did the very first BTO show with John from my closet.
Oh, that's
I was in the closet. I was in the closet because I didn't want there to be any noise. I didn't want anybody to interrupt me. I didn't want anybody to like knock on the door. I was going to be channeling the council, and I was in my closet. So baby, we have come a long way. And
I have to tell you that
oh my gosh.
the irony of that is that when I lived in Santa Barbara, I used to broadcast from the closet. It was the best acoustics in the whole condo that I lived.
It's true.
I didn't know
so
that.
You know what? Wherever you are in your life, wherever you are, it's if you are still in the closet, that is totally fine. Your dreams can come true faster than you can imagine. But I have told this to John in person. I have said it before on our calls, but being in this BTO community and having you in my life, and April and your entire team and organization has changed my life. And our friendship is just one of the things I am most grateful for and feel most blessed for. And you are such a part of this dream come true for me, which is why I wanted to share and celebrate it with you together, because you are such an integral part of it. I mean, people hear me say this all the time. It's about these connections. It's connections that you make that change your life. And as you grow and as you expand and as you become more authentic with who you are, and you allow yourself to express all that you are, and the things that come along the way that just expand you into something new, is all part of preparing you for the connections that show up in your life. In fact, none of this would be possible, what we're celebrating today, if it wasn't for you, because I was on Beyond the Ordinary show. We got to be really good friends. You introduced me to Lee Harris. Lee Harris and I got to be good friends. Lee Harris introduced me to Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley introduced me to Hay House. So I can connect the dots backwards and see that it has all been part of having you in my life that has been part of my dream come true. And I'm just eternally and forever grateful for that. And I love you, my friend. And it's so fun to just reflect on how far we have come. It's really fun.
Well, and thank you. And again, the abundance that I speak about and the richness of this world that I get to experience is because of
Mhm.
connections, like the connection I have with you, which I'm so full.
Yeah.
I'm so full and so grateful in so many different ways. And again, we've expanded each other's lives and through that heart connection,
Yeah.
through the intimacy of that friendship that just keeps blossoming. Um, and I'll talk a lot about that a little bit more, but I want to bring a little bit of context also about the celebration. And Sarah, I want you to announce it. I know a lot of people already know about it, but some people may not. And so that little orange thing that's sitting behind you on your desk, that book.
Yeah. So this is my dream come true, I have to really say. The Wisdom of the Council, Channeled Messages for Living Your Purpose, is being officially released by Hay House on November 1st, 2022. You can pre-order it now. It will ship as soon as it's ready to go. And the audiobook will also be available for purchase on November 1st. This has been a long time coming, and a lot of people that were such an important part of this dream becoming reality for me, and to bring the council's wisdom to the world. In fact, I it probably started about 13 years ago. I was still in the corporate world. I had been doing what I now know was automatic writing, but at the time I didn't know what it was. I was awakened in the middle of the night and I would just have this energy and I would write. And the next morning I would wake up and I would read what I had written. And I knew it wasn't coming from me, but it was coming through me. And it was the answers to every question I had, which was essentially about who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? How do I live it? What's our highest potential? And I really couldn't find the answers anywhere. And much to my surprise, they started coming through me. And at that time, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I was in the corporate world. I was in IT infrastructure consulting services. I had read channeled material. I had followed personal development. I had read a lot of Wayne Dyer, who I thought was a spiritual teacher at that time. But I woke up in the middle of the night, and as clear as any voice could have been, it said, Sara Landon is a spiritual teacher. And I woke up and I'm like, what? Like, I don't have I'm not a passionate writer. I wasn't like Wayne Dyer was a doctor. I hadn't done speaking about spiritual things in any way. And the only person I really knew that fit that title was Wayne Dyer. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't even know where to begin. It just seemed so far-fetched. It seemed so silly, actually. I then, I don't know if it was a year or two, maybe after that, I made a vision board, which still sits in my office today, just because it makes me happy to look at it. It's beautiful. And I put Hay House on there. I put best-selling author, and the little picture that was like the placeholder for the book was called The Way of Wisdom.
Hmm.
And I never even really connected the dots until after the book was published and it showed up. And I was like, the way of wisdom, the wisdom of the council, pretty interesting. So I never could have imagined how this would be possible. And many people said early on, well, you've got to write a book. And it just wasn't in the flow. And they said, well, nobody's going to listen to someone who hasn't written a book and isn't speaking all over the world. And I just kept following the energy. And, there were many times that I had no idea what I was doing or what I thought. How could you think this is possible for you? And many of my own fears, which we all go through, of especially in this space of doing something that is, I believe, leading the way for a lot of humanity to awaken to who we really are. We were talking before we started the interview a bit about that, and just how some of us have been raised. And when you wake up to these beliefs beyond what you have thought was reality or what was programmed, it's incredibly pioneering what we're doing. Not just you and me, John, but everybody listening to this.
Everybody
What
listening.
you are doing is pioneering, is blazing a trail. You are a way shower in your life, in your communities, in your families. And we are making a profound difference, all of us. In fact, John and I used to do events in LA called the Great Awakenings. And it was about bringing these spiritual conversations out of the closet and into everyday mainstream life. And, the people that would show up were just doing the most amazing things. And truly, this community for BTO, you are pioneering new levels of consciousness, and it's extraordinary. So, yeah, I never could have quite thought how all the dots would come together, but it's definitely a celebration, and we wanted to share this together and share it with the BTO audience today. It just feels perfect. And in fact, I remember someone you told me about the very first time we ever talked, and that person's book. And I remember looking it up. And as I've been kind of watching the pre-sales of the book on Amazon, that book is also on the list. And I think we hit number 16 on the bestsellers list, and we haven't even launched the book yet. So hopefully by the time we get there. And how amazing is that these messages, for channeled messages, are reaching that level. I mean, it's just amazing. So thank you for being part of it. Thank you for being here with me to celebrate this. It's really fun.
Oh my God, thank you for the contribution, and for normalizing, really, for normalizing this conversation, for normalizing everybody's capacity to tune in to their council, to tune in to the benevolence of the council that you have access to also, because they not only serve you, they serve all of us. And I'd love it if you talk a bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We all have this gift, and we have this connection, and it expresses through everybody in a unique way. I did a course last year with Mike Dooley called The Art of Channeling. And along with that, I have taken, I think there's 12 small groups of 50 plus people from around the world, plus several people that have done private sessions with me one-on-one when I used to do that to teach people how to channel. And everybody has this ability. I know that it expresses through everybody differently. It might be art, it might be music, it might be writing, it might be poetry. You might just have a knowing. You may be one of those people that just holds space and people feel more calm and peaceful in your presence. You are channeling divine love and divine light. We all have our own unique way. I mean, John's incredibly intuitive and tuned in. And there's so many times when we're just having lunch or having a conversation that he is full on channeling and bringing in truths and infinite intelligence. And yet it's just his way of conversing from a tuned in place. That's channeling as well. And so everybody can do this, really. We all have our gifts, and yet it is natural and inherent. It's what we never intended to forget, this ability to tune in to the power and the truth that really is who you are and who everyone is.
That's beautiful, Sarah. And thank you. Thank you for that invitation for all of us. So why the wisdom of the council, the book now? Why is now the time, the proper time, divine timing for it to come out?
Well, first off, because I think that we are past the turning point. I really do. I think the great awakening of humanity is, we're over the tipping point. It's happening. It's happening all around us. It's just time for us all to wake up to the truth of the love and the peace and the joy and the harmony and the abundance and the well-being and the freedom that's here for all of us. The council has been talking about new levels of consciousness and new levels of energy and new levels of creation for some time. I have felt that, and I get chills as I say this, in the last couple of weeks more powerfully than I ever have before. And the reason that's important, the council talks about it, and they talk about it in the book as well, that the formula for creation, they call it the secret formula for creation, but as I share it, it's not so secret anymore. So no, it's the way we all manifest, whether you know it or not. It is that consciousness moves energy into form. That's the formula for creation. And for me, this is the law of attraction was a huge part of my journey, and a huge part of my own awakening experience, and coming into this awareness that we do have the power to change our circumstances and conditions and create our life the way we want to. But there was something more for me that no one could ever answer. And I was really searching for that answer. And that's what started coming through when I started channeling the council. And that is what is in this book. In fact, many times I got the guidance. Don't worry about what anybody wants from you. Don't worry about what anybody else is putting out there in the world. What is the book that you want to read? Create the book that you want to read. And if you are the only one that reads it, if I'm the only one who holds this book in my hand and loves it as much as I do, that's enough. And I think that, to me, when I came to that place, I could just fully allow true creation to guide the way. And it's just been a beautiful, beautiful unfolding. But to me, when you really understand how important this consciousness is, and another word for that might be awareness. Consciousness does not mean necessarily rituals, or that there's one way of, it's only people who do yoga, or it's only people that eat certain things, or it's only people that live in certain places. That's not necessarily what consciousness is. Although I think from highest levels of consciousness, we all live a more compassionate, loving life, aware of how we impact other things. But consciousness is really about awareness beyond your limitations, an awareness beyond lack, an awareness beyond a belief in separation, an awareness beyond fear and suffering. And when we elevate ourselves beyond those things through our awareness, through our consciousness, all of a sudden we start summoning the source energy that is the truth of who we are, the source energy that's been here all along, that's always available to us, but we weren't allowing it when we're in overwhelm or stressed out or trying to figure things out or believing we're not worthy. So the moment you step into this awareness of this new consciousness, all of a sudden this energy starts flowing into your experience. And now you're creating and manifesting like you never have before. And everything in your life is miraculous. And these just miracles keep showing up. Life just keeps showing up, and it's a yes. What you want and what you need show up even before you know you need it. And so while we have been talking about this new energy and this new level of consciousness for quite some time, I think you can agree with me, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it too. We are actually realizing it, feeling it, seeing it, tasting it, touching it. It's here. And it's here for you to create the life of your dreams. And I have always been passionate about this, but it is a passion that seems to have a sense of urgency now. Not that there's a lack of time, but what if you are actually here to create your vision of heaven on earth? It's not about waiting till you get into higher dimensions of consciousness beyond this physical experience. It's not about needing to ascend out of this physical experience. What if you're actually here to create your heaven on earth now? And there is nothing stopping you. And anything that might have been stopping you, whatever that could have been, it's not stopping you now. So what are you creating? What is the experience you want to have? And we are in the process of this course that we've been doing called You're Worth It, which is a journey to knowing that you're worthy of having it all. And if you really sit with that feeling of having it all, it's unique to each of us. What does having it all mean to you? John and I were talking before we got started of just, our lives. And although there was a resonance with some of our aspects of our life at different times in the past, to actually really, could you imagine of creating this life that you're living now? It's just amazing. It's not something that I think about when, you were a kid, or when I was a kid, or even as a teenager. Did you ever actually think that this type of life was even possible? I didn't even have a concept that something like this was possible.
Right. Oh no, we're being gifted with so much. And along the way, there's ways in we show up and listen to serendipity, and there's a divine force that guides also, and there's choice points along the way. And really, want to bring light and how important it is to the manifesting journey, our choices or lack of choices, which are choices also. So there's this time that you said there's not a sense of urgency, but it is time. And I believe that it is becoming so apparent that we are feeling the suffering of the unconsciousness, and at the same time feeling the impetus of the forward momentum and the exhilaration that's possible of our dreams coming true when we are aligned, or where we're choosing those things that are aligning us with our path.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd love it if you talk more about that, because you've been listening, you've been in serendipity, you have put in your love, your energy, I would call it your intimacy, into this garden that you've been watering all along. And it hasn't stopped here. This isn't the culmination just with the book. There's more, and it's not all about career or how you share. But for me, it becomes about how it encompasses your whole life, and your life is a reflection of that in several aspects.
Mhm.
And again, you're embodying that in so many beautiful ways. If the book weren't there, Sara Landon wouldn't be any less. It's just another iteration of the love that you are sharing, because your cup is full from that love, from my perspective.
I so appreciate that you're saying that, because you're spot on, and not because it was about me, but anything that you ever do or ever achieve or ever create or ever manifest cannot make you more worthy than you are right now, and more worthy than you have always been. And I think worthiness is a really big thing. I see people, some that are, you would just look at them and go, oh my gosh, they have it, they have it all, right? And yet they struggle with feeling that they're worthy of all that they have, and that it is so much of their identity. And yet this is the shift in consciousness. This is the absolute coming into your truth, into the consciousness of knowing that you are worthy of having it all. And along with that, I would say having it all, there's much of that that means the same to us.
Mm.
Joy, love, harmony, peace, well-being, abundance, freedom, beauty. For some, it's adventure. Some people want to travel the world. Some people want to create a space to have family and entertain. Some of us want to speak like you and I do. And for some people, they want to sit and write and have the space and the peace and the harmony and the serenity to write what they're feeling in their heart, or this story that they have been wanting to bring to life, whatever it is. But that's it right there. There's nothing that you will ever do that's going to make you more worthy. You have been worthy and infinitely worthy all along. And my own personal self-reflection on this path has been, every step forward has been a letting go of some unconscious way that I was not allowing my infinite worthiness to be experienced by me in that moment. And when we talk about manifestation, we have gone through many different iterations of this, I believe, in the journey into higher levels of consciousness, with the council's work itself. But the big thing about manifestation we have to understand is how we create resistance that keeps us from summoning the energies for the very thing that we want to manifest. And that's the big piece that we've got to really allow ourselves to be conscious of. When we're creating the resistance that is not allowing us to summon the energy to move those creations into form, that's our opportunity. So all these different things like surrender, letting go, those things are all about letting go of resistance. Why? Because when we resist anything at all, we're resisting everything. And you may think you're in resistance about something going on in your relationship or your work or your family dynamic, But that resistance is creating resistance in all areas of your life. So you're wondering why these things aren't manifesting, why you're not feeling the energy, why you're not feeling the inspiration. It's because when we resist anything, it's resisting everything.
Mm.
And so when you feel into that place of really truly being worthy, and you used a particular word that I'm going to go back to for a second, because that's the third time someone has said that word to me in the last 24 hours. You used the word garden.
Mm.
And I believe that Earth is this beautiful garden within this vast and glorious universe. Gardens are all about manifestation and creation. They're all about the joy and the beauty of planting a seed and watching it grow into something that delights you, nourishes you, creates beauty, brings you joy, whatever it is, right? It's all about nurturing and nourishing yourself, right?
Mm.
And so I would say anybody listening to this, anybody that's part of the BTO community, certainly you, we all want to make a difference. We all want to make this a better world. We all want to create positive change. I particularly want it to be easier for everyone. I want their awakening experience to be loving and harmonious and gentle. And I want them to feel connected and loved and have people to share with and community as we all expand together. But we have spent so much of our life determining our worthiness by how much we have done, how much we have achieved, how many people are happy with us, as long as what are the important people in our life? Are they happy with what we're doing? And that's where we have determined whether we're worthy or not. And yet, if you go back to this, imagine that absolutely anything is possible for you. And the council would say, even that is still based in a belief that is not aligned with how worthy and powerful you really are.
Mm.
And I think that's where we're going next. The council calls it the grand experiment. And to me, we are source in physical form. And I truly believe we are here to create our vision of heaven on earth, or our version of paradise on earth, whatever that means to you. And when I think about what would really uplift and inspire humanity, to me, it's those moments of seeing the impossible become possible, not because you're doing some sort of trick, but it's the things that stand the test of time, right? It's the pyramids, it's Machu Picchu, it's, some of these incredible temples and places around the world that have been there forever. I can think of in my own travels, going to like the Acropolis and standing there and just going like, it was doing something to me physically to be in the presence of something created with such magnificence, and that I could take it in with my physical senses. And you are that very thing. And you creating the life of your dreams is that very manifestation of your vision of heaven or paradise or the promised land here on earth in your life in physical form.
It's the
Not
legacy.
because it makes you more worthy.
Yeah, but it's your legacy that you get to leave in the consciousness of the collective. And I love it because
I love that. It's
well,
the legacy you leave in the consciousness of the collective. I love that.
And it goes back to why you wrote the book, which to me says everything. If you just wrote it for yourself and you heard the message and you received it, done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that worthiness piece. That's when for me, that's like when you're hitting that golden means when you get to that level of understanding what's being gifted to you.
Yeah.
And it's with so much humility and gratitude that you receive what has been given to you through you. That's when you know that you're really tapped in. That's when you get to the point where you just can't help but to give from your overflow. It's like,
Yeah.
I just want to share this love with whoever desires to receive it. Not that they have to receive it, not that they're going to be saved, not that it's going to change their lives, but whoever has the desire to. And from letting go of the judgment of who has to or what it's going to do for them, there's an invitation into what's possible with this that we didn't consider possible before.
Yeah. So good. So good. Yeah. And I mean, I just felt something shift in my being when you said what you just said. It's the legacy we leave in the consciousness of the collective.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I mean, there's so much in that.
Talk about our purpose as human beings, as souls coming in. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
breathe into that, right? All of us. Just like,
Yeah.
and
So
all
good.
all of us,
All
really,
of us. Yeah.
we do. Every single one of us, every single one of you. It's so important that you're here. It's not by mistake. You're not.
And whenever you're listening to this, whether it's live or you're listening to the replay sometime in the future, or you found this video on YouTube years later, you're hearing it at the divine, perfectly orchestrated time for you to hear and to ask yourself this question: what am I creating? Because there is nothing stopping you, and anything that may have been stopping you before is not stopping you now. It's time for you to, in the words of John Burgos, create the legacy that you want to leave in the consciousness of humankind.
Yeah. So beautiful. All right. So the wisdom of the council, the book,
Yes.
Hay House, which Hay House was something that you had let go of because you're Abraham-hicks and Esther, and you channeled something similar. It seemed like there was some familiarities. Like, no, you're Esther 2.0. You're like the young, hip version. Not that she's not cool. I love Esther and what she brings in. She's amazing. But she had a corner with Hay House as a publisher in Law of Attraction. Nobody else can go in that particular type of channeling. But something shifted along the way. It's like, can't be Hay House because Esther has a corner on that, which seems so weird that a spiritual company had scarcity involved, but that's okay. It shifted. Something shifted, and there was something else happening that I believe that gave you the impetus to transmit from a different place than the initial boxes that you thought that you could fit into. There was something larger.
Yeah, I share this in the Art of Channeling course, and when I teach people how to channel, that I hadn't heard of Esther Hicks. I had followed some other channels. I had read Seth Speaks books. I had loved Edgar Casey. My aunt had been following different channels from the time I was very young, and so I had gotten to the point in my life where all I really read was channeled material. And so when I started channeling the council, someone said, you really need to check out Esther and Jerry Hicks and Abraham-hicks. And I kept hearing that there was a movie producer, or I'm sure there probably still is. I think his name is Jerry Hicks. And I'm like, why do they keep talking about, what does a movie producer have to do with anything? And I finally figured out who it was and what they were talking about. And I deeply resonated with it. And a lot of her early channelings, sounded very similar. Just the difference in the cadence of my voice and the tone of my voice when I was channeling. And I mean, she paved the way for not just me, but so many people. And I am just deeply, deeply grateful. And I know it hasn't been easy for her all the time. And I know that they've been through difficulties as well. But I am just so grateful. And I have tremendous respect for what she has created. And the first time I went to an Abraham-hicks event, and she's walking around on the stage and doesn't remember anything and says, I'm going to go get Abraham because I've got nothing. And she would bring in Abraham and not remember. That wasn't my experience at all. I channel with my eyes closed. I experience it all from a much higher level of consciousness, but I do hear it all. And I do remember what was said. And so I thought I was doing something wrong. And I was actually very deflated when I went back, because I thought, oh, geez, I'm not doing it right. And until I experienced that, I'm not doing it the right way. Well, I very quickly realized that people who all started channeling around the time that I did, most of us did it very similar, like Wendy Kennedy or Lee Harris. Most of us are closing our eyes and are in one place, and we do hear it and experience it, and we are conscious and aware. In fact, my consciousness, I believe, merges with the greater collective that is the council, and I'm very much a part of that experience. But I do see, Seth Speaks, oh my gosh, A Course in Miracles. These books were out long before even, Esther Hicks was channeling. And, I believe you even had her on the show, the woman that, Sheila Gillette,
Yeah,
is
right.
it, that
Sheila, yes.
helped Esther start channeling. So we are all on this journey in different parts of this. It's not a race, but it always reminds me. In fact, I've had that visual many times of this handing off of the baton to your teammate, right? Of you carry the torch this far, and then you pass it on to someone who carries the torch to the next step, and then they pass it on to someone else. And there will be a whole generation of people that come after us that we have paved the way for and are paving the way for. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. It's just amazing. But yes, the one thing that I did really feel very deeply, though, when I would listen to anything about the law of attraction is, okay, that's what we were ready for until now.
Mhm.
But I had this very deep yearning for something beyond the law of attraction, the next evolution of the law of attraction, because I had asked, believe, receive, right? I did the vision board. I asked, I believed, I received. And I was like, okay, let's unmanifest this now as quickly as possible. Or I would manifest something and go, wait, why don't I feel the sense of fulfillment and happiness I thought I was going to feel when I manifested that? And that's when this whole conversation about what I would refer to as one of the very early on courses we did, called Manifesting Your Soul's Desires, but it's still even so much beyond that. It's when we come into realization, we move into this impeccable, true creation where you go beyond wanting and needing into the knowing that you are the consciousness of everything, that you are the consciousness of having it all. There's no needing or wanting. You are one with everything. And then it's about drawing to you reality and destiny that moves through this force field of consciousness that is you. And it's a very different experience. And it's, to me, the answers, the awareness that I was seeking. I just never could have imagined that those answers would come through me. But again, it's all what's in the book. And that's why we call it the wisdom of the council and channeled messages for living your purpose, because it is that, to me, next evolution. Part of living your purpose is knowing that you are creator within your own creation of reality, and how to allow true creation that is impeccable and aligned with your soul's desires, which are wholeness, fullness, completeness, the part of you that is always in joy and peace and love and harmony and abundance and well-being, instead of creating an experience of lack or limitation where you're humans perceiving separation from what it is you want more of, or that knowingness that you are one with everything. And it's just a very different shift. So, I also share this as well, because as much as, if you would have asked me back then, do you want it now? Do you want to be a spiritual teacher today and publish a book with Hay House today? I would have said, yep, I'm ready.
Mm.
I would have. And yet, oh my gosh, I look back at where I was then and all the things that
Yeah.
have happened and brought me into this moment. And I wouldn't change a thing. I can't imagine all of the beauty I would have missed out on along the way to coming into this level of expansion. And what I know now for sure is, kind of to your question earlier, it happens at the divinely orchestrated perfect time, and you don't want it a minute too early, and it won't come a minute too late.
I love that. And the richness of it that manifests when it's ripe. It's like eating a fruit way too soon. It's like, but right when it's just ready and you get to experience the fullness of that experience. It really, you're creating with ecstasy at that point when you realize, and again, you get to that place of being present with what has manifested, not just, okay, I got to go on to the next thing,
Yeah.
but being with the liveliness of that. And again, you and a few handful like you that I'm familiar with, Lee Harris, who you mentioned, being one of them. You are embodied channelers. As you get information, you live the experience, you go through it, you are sharing from not an outside perspective. And it started happening years ago where I started noticing other channels that they were speaking more as themselves and not translating as much, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Mm-hmm.
And it just became very normalized, and it was a very smooth transition. And that just speaks
Mm-hmm.
volumes of what we're all able to access now at this time. There has been a
Yeah.
shift in consciousness for all of humanity.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's here for all of us, not just some of us.
Mm.
It's all of us.
And I want to invite everybody to own it. I mean, really, it's like, it seems so far removed that other people are doing it. And the acknowledgement within self that this lives inside of us, this is a natural, organic part of who we are, is 9/10 of the way of getting to that place that we feel can be so far removed from us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's also why the term realization is so meaningful to me. And I don't know that I had ever heard that term prior to the council talking about coming into realization. I'd heard about enlightenment and ascension, but I really didn't know what it meant. And it's a very big difference between hearing it, conceptualizing it, and experiencing it. And I'll give you just an example of it. When you are really living and creating the life of your dreams, and you are not creating a limitation for yourself, and you're not imposing lack or separation on your reality or deeming yourself unworthy, you not only set yourself free, but you set everyone else free in your life. And in doing so, I truly believe that everyone around you also allows you that freedom to be who you are.
Mhm.
And they may not understand your path exactly, but there is this deeper knowing. And so I noticed that a lot of the resistance that I had about different things, I started just to become aware of when that was happening. And there would always be some little thing unconscious underneath whatever was triggering me, that in some way I was believing I didn't have the power or I wasn't worthy. And how worthiness shows up for me most of the time is that feeling of power. So the question, in what way are you denying your power, or you're denying your power or doubting your power to create the life of your dreams? Well, this person has to act this way or do this thing. I an example of someone that comes to mind that doesn't have the relationship with their adult child that they want to have. And they say, well, the life of my dreams includes me having this beautiful, harmonious relationship with my adult child or my parent or my sibling or whatever it is. And it's like, but that's just a way you're giving your power away.
Mm.
And if you will allow yourself to create the life of your dreams and live it, chances are they will be right there in that moment that you fully allow yourself into that reality that you want to create for you. And if not today, then at some point they'll be there. But I noticed a lot of my resistance came from that.
Mm,
And I noticed when I started coming into the realization, right, of this power that we all have, not some of us, all of us, that it's back to consciousness and awareness is what summons the energy for all creation. And that means manifestation in physical form. When you're really aligned with that source energy and that power that is the truth of who you are, you set yourself free, but you also set everybody else free in your life. And that is where some really magical and miraculous things happen when you really let go of resistance in that way.
mm. We let ourselves out of the jail that we've created for ourselves.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful. Sarah, I
Yeah.
want to make sure everybody, okay, celebration for Sara Landon's Day. And for it's just such a momentous thing. And I can't help but I'm giddy for Sara. It's amazing. And there's an opportunity for all of y'all to buy the book now. It's on pre-sale. It'll be on audio pretty soon. And we want to help Sara also get on the bestseller list. I think you're already there, but let's get you moving even more up the charts. Just lock it in. And so y'all, the link for the book, April put the
I
special
think there we
offer.
go. Yeah.
There's a link to the book there. And so you get a description of what the book is. You'll be able to pre-order it. Let's go there real quick, Sara.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the page and
Absolutely.
just guide everybody to what they'll be receiving. But again, I want you guys to receive the gift of this book. I bought one because I even already had it. Sara gave me a nice handwritten, beautiful note that I'm going to cherish forever. But I like the energy exchange also. I love supporting the abundance that's available and creating that the momentum. And buy it for yourself, buy it for people for Christmas already. Anyone that you want to give even an opening or permission into this role of channeling, someone who's into that, believes that maybe they don't have community around that, so that they can find home in these words also. But Sara, tell us about the book. Tell us about what we have here in the wisdom of the council.
So April put it in the special offer there, and the link in the actual special offer is to the Wisdom of the Council book page, web page, where you can read some endorsements. One of the reasons that John got his own special message in his original autographed book was because he wrote an endorsement for the book, which we featured in the opening of the book. So I appreciate that so much. And so you can see different endorsements for the book. If you go back to this website, we are also going to be announcing our launch party, which will be on November 1st. And you are all invited. Details coming very, very soon for our launch party. So go back to this special offer page. When you go to the wisdomofthecouncil.com, the special offer page that is included here, you will see different options to purchase the book, either Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Hudson Books, pretty much anywhere books are sold. You will be able to pre-order it now. If you're listening to this after November 1st, 2022, you can buy the book right now. And the audiobook will be available on that date, November 1st, 2022. And you can join our launch party. We'd love to see you all there. We have some awesome surprises and a special guest or two, which we're excited to share. So join the launch party. At the launch party, we're also going to be releasing to everyone who registers for the launch party almost an hour of preview of the audiobook. And I will tell you, there's a part of that that I was literally listening to when I got it from Hay House, and I had to pull my car over on the side of the road. And the energy of it was just like, oh my gosh, I actually get how important this is in the world and the light within it. And so I'm really excited about that. So go to the page there. As we get links, so for example, some countries like New Zealand is print on demand. So as we get those links, we'll be adding them here to this page, thewisdomofthecouncil.com. And so you'll be able to continually go back here to find more and more things that have to do with the book, and free gifts that we're offering, and launch parties and all those wonderful things. And again, that special opportunity to get a free hour preview of the audiobook. It's pretty awesome. I actually have never gone totally into my whole story ever of how I started channeling the council. And so that was really fun to create as well. And it's really interesting because we're talking about this, but I've had many people in my life that don't really know what I do. And they said, I've pre-ordered your book. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Like, oh my
And they're
God.
like, I'm so excited to read it. Right. And I'm like, I know for sure these people don't know what I actually do, that I channel. They've been, some of them are, a couple of them are childhood friends that I know have no idea what I actually do. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that because it's just time. It's just time. This is no big deal. Someone asked me the other day about, channeling and in the context of it being sort of woo-woo. And I'm like, it's really not. It's the most natural thing. And we all do it all the time, whether we are aware of it or not. And I was having a conversation today with someone, and it just came up that her brother had passed away a few years ago. And I shared my story with her about when my brother passed, which was one of my very first experiences of receiving higher intelligence from non-physical. And I shared my whole story. And then I went into how this is, what I do now. And most people refer to it as channeling, and that's what my book's about. And it's just becoming so natural and easy to talk about. And I'm excited for that, for us and for everyone. I mean, I truly believe what you've created, John, this platform of Beyond the Ordinary, has changed so many people's lives. You are the ultimate connector, bringing people together with the information that they're looking for, and the people who teach and speak about the things that people are wanting to really get greater awareness about, not to mention being an incredible channel and intuitive, and the work that you do with people yourself. I mean, it's just amazing. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for the opportunity to share the book. And I hope you all will join us at the launch party and get your order. And yeah, it was kind of exciting. Hay House shared, well, we can't say too much about it, but we actually received a very sizable order from Barnes and Noble for what they call debut author, since it's the first
Wow.
book. So yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
And there's a second book being released in April timeframe of 2023, which is actually I will tell you this because it's again, it's just another dream come true. So I many years ago had seen a Hay House produced event called, I think it was called Conversations with Masters, or Conversation with the Masters, which was Wayne Dyer interviewing Esther Hicks and Abraham-hicks. And Mark on my team was part of that event. And I remember thinking like, okay, like that is the coolest thing I could ever imagine, like sitting there having, Wayne Dyer asking questions to the council, like, oh my gosh, that's incredible, right? Well, then Wayne Dyer transitions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there went my big dream, right? Darn it. Okay, well, I'll keep going. Maybe Source has a sense of humor. Well, I mean, I couldn't have even imagined to think that Mike Dooley, I mean, I remember seeing Mike Dooley in The Secret years ago, and is playing the Matrix game. I would hear about it when it would come into town where I lived in. And I knew he was a best-selling author. So when we became friends and he started actually doing sessions with the council, I'm like, okay, this is better than I could have ever imagined. And then we actually did an online event, which had over 25,000 people. And I think that I don't know how many people were at the Hay House conference, but it was so beyond what I ever could have imagined. And then to have Hay House want us to put that into a book was like, oh my gosh, like again, the council said, and you'll read this in the book, one of the very first things they said to me was, if you will just live this wisdom, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. To which I replied, I have some really big dreams, so I don't know how you're going to ever deliver anything beyond my wildest dreams. So let's do it my way. And they're like, no, let's try this way. And yeah, now on the other side of it, it's absolutely beyond my wildest dreams. And I think that's really the essence of what I want to give to the world.
Mm,
And, I talk to people from all different walks of life. And somebody asked me, what do I actually tell people I do? Like I'm at a dinner party, someone says, Sarah, what do you do? Essentially, I help people discover their purpose and how to live it. And that's really what all this is about. It's really
right.
about what is your purpose and how do you live it? And for most people, that answer is very different than what they think it is. It certainly is different than what I thought it is. And so that's really what the whole book is about, is in the most loving, joyful, fun, expansive way. The channeled messages within the book bring you into this absolute knowing of your purpose and how to live it in every moment. I saw a comment, just in the chat below. Do I ever have a bad day?
I was going to read
And
that comment for you. I was going to pick that up.
I
That's so
want
funny.
to answer this question. I do not ever have a bad day. I really don't. I do not have a bad day. I have moments where I can feel I'm processing through something, or I'm going really deep into something, or I am expanding in a way that may be uncomfortable to me. I have moments of getting triggered. John knows the story because he's was some part of this experience. I mean, we've both had an experience of having loss right before we were together, in a time where we were going to meet up. But my beloved dog Kona transitioned somewhat unexpectedly. She was fine, and a week later she transitioned in a pretty intense way. It was not a bad day.
Mm,
There was so much love in that day. There was so much beauty in that day. I, for the first time ever, was unable to make one of my master's class advanced calls, which we do every Wednesday, because she started to transition about 15 minutes before. And she transitioned. And after the call, my master's class program went over to a community call. And when we shared what was going on, the absolute love it was an experience that I've not had yet. And I wish for everyone to be
mm,
able to sit in this sacredness and the feeling of being held in deep compassion and in truth, and yet allowing for those emotions and the feelings. But it was a very emotional day. It was a very intense day, but I do not have bad days.
mm.
And I don't think anybody ever has to have a bad day again. And I caveat that very strongly with my bad days that I used to have were filled with my own self-judgment. When I have in the past had bad days, I can look back and I see that I was in judgment of myself. And so if you are feeling like you're having a bad day, the first thing to be aware of is letting go of any judgment for yourself. And the same goes to, I get triggered sometimes. Sure. I mean, I have moments where I wake up and I'm like, wait, yesterday was like so amazing and expansive and all this energy and beauty and creation. I wake up and it's like flat or heavy, right? Or emotional or intense. And you're like, ugh. Most of the time we go, oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, I'm not in a high vibration anymore. Oh, I must be in some unconscious old belief here. And we just go into blaming ourselves and shaming ourselves and judging ourselves. And so I encourage you to start there with loving yourself. And one of the questions that came up recently in a call, and I know the person who asked it is on this call because I saw her make a comment, but she said, that skeptical part of me, that judgmental part of me that's the toughest critic on me, what do I do with that part of me? And the counsel's like, Put your arm around her or hold her hand and go for a walk with her,
Mm,
or take her to lunch, or sit and put your arms around her and hold her and tell her how much you love her. Make friends with those parts of you. Again, that's realization, is to integrate every part of you. And a council doesn't talk about ego. They say the second you're trying to fight some part of you and judge some part of you, you're creating separation. You're lowering your consciousness, where you're no longer summoning the same level of energy. So if you wake up one morning and the energy isn't what it was yesterday, be kind and compassionate and loving to yourself.
mm,
Find moments of peace and really nurture yourself. I find that a lot of times that is like bringing in those new levels of expansion. In fact, I was getting ready for one of the sessions for the live course that we've been doing, and I was having these heart palpitations. My heart was racing,
mm,
and I just took a few deep breaths, and it was like, oh, this is energy. Like this is like new levels of light in every cell of my body. Of course, that made my heart race, but
mm,
I just tuned in and I was like, nothing's wrong. This is just take it in, let it in, breathe through it. But we have this habit, and that's all it is, of going into judgment, of thinking that there's something wrong with us. We haven't done something right. That judgment that I'm still not whole, I'm still not healed. And to me, creating the life of your dreams is about going beyond that dimension of consciousness, that you're still not enough, you're still not healed, you're still not whole, into absolute pure love for yourself. And that allows you into consciousness of pure love, which is your connection to everything.
mm,
So if you're having a bad day, just notice that it's not really a bad day. You might be having a moment, and there's an opportunity for you to come more deeply into pure love for yourself in that moment, or maybe pure love for someone else. Because, where I have other little moments, as I was sharing earlier, it's like I'm in resistance because I have created a story in my head that I don't have the power to change a certain situation unless someone else changes their behavior or what they're doing, or where the choices they're making. And it's like, no, that's not really true. Like, I do have the power to create it, and it's our responsibility to untangle ourselves and create it.
mm. Beautifully stated, Sarah. Thank you so much. You weren't expecting that answer, were you? You guys weren't. So I was like, of course. No. And how wonderful, and the consciousness that you bring into it. Even as you were talking about Kona, I started welling up, and the transmission of love that you held for Kona and for the moment. It's like it's palpable. You can't help but to become a living emanation of the energy of that love. And
Yeah.
again, what a beautiful example of you being that. As I got to receive it as you were speaking it, I felt it, and it caused an emotional reaction in me.
Yeah. It
Just so
was a great privilege. It was a
wonderful.
great privilege. I shared this with my master's class community as well. But a few weeks ago, I also had the great privilege to be with a donkey named
Mm,
Gus, who was making his transition. And it was I just met this donkey an hour or so earlier. And yet the reverence I had for this animal, the love I had for this animal, just every hair on his beautiful little body and his big old long ears. And I could feel the sentient being that was in my presence, and being in the moment to hold the space and the consciousness for this animal to make their transition, or for anybody to make that transition, is a great privilege, and something that Sarah 10 years ago, 15 years ago would not have been able to do.
mm,
My my love for animals and the loss and I would not have been able to maintain the level of consciousness to be present, and not in a moment of sadness or grief, but in absolute reverence and honor and devotion. And I feel very differently about all of that as a result of living the council's wisdom. So
Mm. As a result of embodying it, for sure. And again, the word that
yeah.
came up for me when you were doing that was reverence. And you have learned and have matured in the resonance of what the symbol of that word evokes
Mhm.
in our vibrational being as we relate to other people and other things and humanity.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful. Y'all, I want to remind you the book, The Wisdom of the Council. Get on it. Get on the it's a gift for yourself. It says it's for beginners, but it's a transmission of remembrance and awakening also for so many of us at
Yeah.
different levels. And so it's talk more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's highly advanced,
I do
and
too.
yet it's so approachable and consumable. It is. And we've talked about that many times. Like I don't want to live a life of a monk on a mountaintop in isolation. I want to live in and of the world. We have relationships, we have friendships, we have family. I want to live a really normal life. And I believe, for me and for all of us, that this doesn't need to be, we don't need to be in the closet anymore, John Burgos.
No, there's so much beauty in this world. We're here to freaking experience it.
Somebody shared with me that Danica Patrick, the race car driver gal,
Podcast,
had a
yeah.
podcast, and that she was interviewing people that were like channels and had near-death experiences and on all of these like paranormal sort of things. And I'm like, that's so cool. It's becoming very normal and mainstream. And it's because of everyone in this community. It's because of what you do, April. It's because of, all of what we have allowed ourselves to remember as we've gone through our own awakening experiences. And I guess for me, the part that, recently that question of ascension came up again, and everybody has their own experience. But what really landed for me is that, wait a second, this isn't about waiting until you ascend out of this human experience to live in heaven on earth, to create paradise on earth, to expand into that new earth reality. It's not about waiting. It is all possible here. And it's possible by summoning the energy through your consciousness and awareness that creates and manifests everything in every dimension of consciousness. The legacy you leave in the consciousness of the collective, quote unquote, John Burgos. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
Sarah, as we wrap up, I don't want to get into Q&A. I know you all want to ask questions. We got some great questions coming in and all that, but there's such a beautiful transmission happening here. And I want to address something that I can feel coming in. There's like, some people say, but I don't know what the life of my dreams would be. I don't even know how to begin that. I'm still trying to get to a baseline, how to get to a place where I can fit in, where I can breathe finally, where I don't feel like I'm in safety mode all the time. What would you say to those people?
Yeah. I understand that. I really do. In fact, when this concept from the council was first presented to me, I did not know how I would ever go from the life I was living to the life I live now. At that point in time, I was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the gym so that I could get to my office by like 7:30 after sitting in traffic. And I was traveling extensively. I was under tremendous pressure to generate revenue and manage a P&L, the profitability and the loss and the expenses of this huge technology line of business. I lived in a completely different state. I didn't even know anyone really that lived where I wanted to live. I was in a relationship with someone who had no understanding of what I was talking about when I was sharing my spiritual experiences, and would go from kind of understanding to kind of like, can we just never talk about this again? Um, and I had no idea. I was about as far from living the life I really wanted to live at that point as you could possibly be. And I've been through my share of things, and it's not a badge of honor, but when people say, well, you don't understand, I
Yeah,
had cancer. I went through a terrible divorce. I grew up
passed
very
away.
modest and, like created a lot of abundance and lost it all. My brother died in a car crash. My beloved cousin died in a plane crash. There are some experiences in this world that are unfathomable to me, that I know have people have lived through, but your wholeness, your perfection, your worthiness is available to you in every moment, no matter what you have gone through and what you have experienced. There is nothing that has ever happened or could ever happen in your life that can keep you from your inherent worthiness. And shame is one of the heaviest, densest emotions. And for me, when I was in the darkest places of feeling like I had completely screwed up my life and gotten so far off my path, it was the shame that I put on myself, the shame that I held myself in, that really kept me stuck and overwhelmed and feeling unworthy of living this. And as you step out of that towards just simply listening to conversations like this, where you allow yourself, even if just for a few moments, to feel back into the truth of who you are, that your life is meant to be good for you and meant to be joyful, and that you are worthy, and that you're already more than enough. And in fact, the ultimate foundational teaching of the council, if they only ever said one thing, and the fact they've said, we could give you this one thing, you could spend the rest of your life coming into the realization of it. You are everything you wish to be. You already are. You are everything you wish to be. So one of the exercises that they gave me was to envision my perfect day, just a day, not a whole dream life, right? Just a day. If you could have the day of your dreams tomorrow and anything was possible for you, what would that day be like? And mine was like, I sleep in till I wake up. I wake up, with the love of my life, and it's peaceful and serene, and my animals are there, and I go for a walk with my animals, and I maybe do some meditation or some journaling, and then I exercise, and then I have conversations with people I love all day long about the things that I'm passionate about and that light me up, like living my purpose and spirituality and consciousness and who are we and why are we here. And then I make a beautiful dinner for my friends or my partner or whatever it is. And I arrive at the end of that day feeling like I just lived it to the fullest. And then I snuggle back into bed, and I was as far from that as I could have possibly been at that point in time. And yet, it can be that simple as just, what would your perfect day be? And I can't share this enough, because when we think about living our purpose or what we really want to create or creating the life of our dreams, one of the things I loved doing was having incredible conversations. And I had one particular friend in my life that we could talk for 2 or 2.5 hours. My Aunt Sunny and I, if I wasn't talk to her, I needed to have like 2 hours on my schedule, because there was no way. But that was always about spirituality, metaphysical things, consciousness, teachings of the channels that she had followed for many years. Then it became the things I was channeling. And then it became conversations with other friends who were intuitive, that were getting similar information. And all I knew was that I loved nature, animals. I wanted serenity and peace in my life. I wanted to do what I loved with people I loved. And I wanted to have amazing conversations every day about this stuff. That is what I do. That is
I got
my
to, I got, I
life.
got to experience that with you in Santa Barbara 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago, or a week and a half
Yeah.
ago. That's
Yeah.
your everyday life. You were really, truly living your dream, and it's so beautiful. By the way, your Aunt Sunny, whenever you speak about her, she's like eternally super young and vital.
Oh, yeah.
It's that energy every time you mention her, and I'm so grateful to her for
Yeah.
inviting this into your life. I am grateful for the council for bringing you into my life. I know the council is grateful for you, Sara Landon.
Thank you.
Yes. And we're all grateful that you're sharing your dream life with us and showing us what's possible, that it is accessible, that it's right here, and for giving us the encouragement and the love to do so.
Thank you.
You are divine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
I receive that in my heart. So thank you so much.
Mm,
Truly, the council says, you are us and we are you. You are the council here on earth. And each of us, we really are. We are the living embodiment of that here on earth. And anything and everything is possible for us. And if I could give everyone I love that knowing of how worthy they are, it's got nothing to do with what you've accomplished or what you know or who you know or a number in your bank account. You came here infinitely worthy. Nothing can ever threaten your perfection and your infinite worthiness. And while you said earlier, there's nothing you're ever going to do that's going to make you more worthy, when you really step into knowing how worthy you are, everything becomes so magical and so beautiful and so simple and so easy. It really does. It really, really does. One of the moments, it was also a total dream come true to record the audiobook for this, because I'm an audiobook person myself. I love to have the book. In fact, what I've been doing is listening to the audiobook, which is being released November 1st, but I have the actual complete one, and I'm listening to it and following along in the book. And it's like, I have read this book at least 50 times in the process of all the different steps of getting this book to publishing, through publishing, through the editing to the publishing point. And yet when I listen to the audiobook and follow along in the words, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get that. I feel like it goes so much deeper. But one of the most difficult parts for me to read was in the introduction, where I shared about my Aunt Sunny, because she was into all of this stuff 30, almost 40 years ago, when it wasn't common and mainstream. And she had been really successful in real estate and in her life. And after a car accident and some things that happened, she ended up discovering it was a documentary, I think, or a guy speaking originally on soulmates, which led her down the path to finding her spiritual teachers. And at one point, her awakening was the most important thing to her, and being part of this wisdom, that she left everything that she had and created to, follow these spiritual teachings. And people did not understand that back then. There wasn't a whole lot of people to talk to about it back then. And one of the things that was really difficult to share in the audiobook was talking about kind of what she had gone through. And a moment that I remember in my life, that I was about 10 years old, where someone in my family said, if she believes that stuff, she's going to go to hell, and so will you if you believe it.
mm,
And I just, as if I was like hovering over my little being, my little girl watching that, like I literally saw the light go out of my body in that moment. And my journey since then is about getting that light back.
mm.
And I think most everyone in your community can probably resonate with that on some level. And that light was always there. It was always there. And when you remember where it is and how to turn it back on again, it will shine brighter than ever, ever, ever before.
Mm. And it's worthy to be seen and to be
Yeah.
gifted to others. So beautiful. Oh, I love that, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you. Well, there are no words, as I've told you many times, to express my love and my gratitude to you. You have changed my life. This community has changed my life. None of this would be possible without you. And I am just so grateful. And I, to anyone and everyone who's listening to this, whenever you are listening to this, I promise you that if John and I can create a life of our dreams, anybody can, no matter where you are. And we're not done. Like, this is just getting fun.
you. Well, and if the energy that you carry also, and I just want to point this out because I hope that y'all can receive the truth of this. When Sarah is telling you that you're worthy, that you too can do what she does and more. Again, that's been written about over and over. That sense of worthiness that she carries, the beautiful emanation that comes from that, and it's natural. And you can't carry your own sense of worthiness unless you are aware that who's sitting right next to you is just as worthy as you are.
Yeah. When you deny another's worthiness, you are actually just denying your own.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, when I finally got that, I was like, wow, the vibrational price that I had paid
Yeah.
to judge someone, try to deny their worthiness, try to change them or fix them, or, oh my gosh, and it goes back to everything we've been talking about, and really the topic today of summoning the energy to create a life you love, to create the life of your dreams. When you let go of all that resistance and that judgment and all that stuff that isn't who you are and isn't the truth of anyone else either, this energy just comes flowing through you into your experience, and all sorts of things start manifesting and being created. That energy was always there, but now through this level of awareness, you're summoning it like never before. And the things that you create are just, it's amazing. So I wish that for everyone.
I love it. I love that you brought in the vibrational cost, because that was one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite quotes from anybody. And it came from the council, and it talked about the vibrational cost of not being in the higher state and being in judgment and what the implications of that are. And y'all, if you look at the cost of a special offer or a book or what you pay at the grocery store, and how conscientious we are of what's coming out of our bank accounts because of the lifestyle that it allows us for whatever reason in the Western world. But then consider the vibrational cost of where we're investing our emotional output. And with that, how that either augments or decreases to that account. That awareness alone shifted so much in me. That must have been 6 years ago that you posted that one. I was like, oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, amazing. And look at where you've been investing. Look at where you've been seeding your garden in so many ways, aware, one step at a time, not being aware that you were going to be here now in this particular place.
Yeah.
But there was, do we call it faith? Do we call it a knowing? Do we call it, it's a communion with yourself? Or do we call it anything and just follow the impetus of what that feels and looks like for us as we create that dream?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for a lot of it's that feeling of total freedom. Just the total freedom to be who you are.
There you go. There's abundance right there.
Yeah.
There's the law of attraction.
Yeah.
2.0.
Yeah. So true.
You really are. You really are. You really are the next generation of transformational leaders.
That's funny because John knows why it's funny, and I know why it's funny, but very early on, I think it was probably 7 years ago, John wrote I don't know if it was a testimonial that you wrote, or you wrote it in preparation for one of the shows or after one of the shows, but it's kind of become like our little tagline. But really, I mean, this it, all of us and what we're doing, we are the next
We are.
generation of transformational leaders.
Mhm.
We're living it. We are living it. It's not just knowing the information. We are living it. And that's what changes your life. That's what creates the life of your dreams, is living this stuff.
You're living in the wisdom of the council, and you each have your own council. It lives within you. It is alive in you. It is your light.
Yeah.
Tap into it.
Yeah.
And play with other people's counsel.
Yes.
Compare notes, and again, explore, play, have fun, play with Sara. Anything that Sara puts out, join her community, buy the book, go to the live launch party. It's like it'll be a gift that you give to yourself over and over again. And Sara, again, thank you. I love you. You're such a blessing.
Thank you. I love you too. And thank you to April and the entire BTO community. It's just always such a joy. One of my favorite things to be here with you guys. And I look forward to many other co-creations in the future. And this has just been really fun. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Bye, y'all.
I love you too.